Hello, and welcome to the W.A.I.T channel. What Am I Thinking? A podcast where two sisters share uplifting conversations on fun and sometimes serious topics.
Join us each week by clicking the notification bell and subscribing to our channel. If you enjoy the show, use the share link. It's one of the best ways to expand the conversation.
Hello, and welcome to the W.A.I.T channel. What am I thinking? We are thinking about the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills and the underwhelming drama that ensued. So, you know how they show us these highlights and make us feel like it's going to be these moments. And not to say that there weren't any moments, but I don't think it fully delivered in the way the highlights made you think it would. What about you, Lori?
I agree. Honestly, if I were asked to do a full recap from the first scene to the very last line, I couldn't. I tried my best to stay engaged. Some important things happened. I enjoyed the conversation that Garcelle and her son Jax had at the restaurant. That was a closure I feel for them I needed to see. But aside from that, honestly, I checked out mentally a number of times because, like you said, there has been this build up in the season to that moment of Kyle at this dinner party, and I feel that it did not, for me, live up to what I was actually expecting.
Well, I guess for me, the way the clips made it seem like it unfolded, it didn't fully unfold that way. But so for those who really need a catch up because maybe you didn't see it, the highlights from this episode, like you, Lori, I don't think I can tell you the opening scene anymore, but it may be out of sequence, but I'll try to cover. So we did get to see Morgan and Kyle's friendship on display with all the laughter and the tattooing and all that stuff. And, of course, her going back home and sharing it with a not so happy Maurizio because he didn't want her to get any more tattoos. We got to see quite a bit of a shady moment from Garcelle when she said, I did notice that Dorit had her ring after the robbery.
I caught that.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, Garcelle, are we going back to questioning the robbery? We don't want to do that, do we? But she did. And then Dorit got a shady moment from Sutton talking about maybe she should not be so choosy, so picky. And I'm like, oh, Sutton. And the thing, I'm going to tell you this, because we had a earlier conversation before we watched the episode. And I was saying about Sutton is she dishes it, but she can't take it. And a lot of the shady stuff that she says, you know, she'd be clutching her pearls if somebody was saying those things about her. And there are some moments where she's going to clutch her pearls because she's not going to like how they're insinuating about her and her vodka. But we saw it, I want to say, was it last week, how early in the day she was mixing her drink. And she was talking about it's drink time somewhere in the world or something like that. So she does like to pour herself her drink a little early. So they're not kidding about that. I don't know how many vodka drinks she takes a day, but, you know, her liver may or may not be happy about it. I don't know. And I have always felt like she may have, which came out at the dinner from Kyle, that she may have a little bit of an eating disorder.
I never thought about that because I don't
Did
know that
that, Mary?
I never really watched anything in, when she was eating, at whether it was at lunch or dinner. I can remember when she first came on the show, I did notice that the proportions of her body and how they
Yeah,
were very, very off. And it seems like her legs have gotten even smaller since
her.
she has joined the show. And one thing we know about your drinker, the one thing that continues to get larger is the waistline. And when you look
Mhm.
at that abdomen of hers, it's not proportionate to the size of her legs. It very much, and this is my opinion,
Yeah,
looks very much like the person that has some type of a relationship with alcohol.
yeah, I would agree with that. And another moment to point out about Sutton where she talks about, her and Kyle and whether they had a real friendship or not. But she said something about, okay, so she's saying Kyle is not her friend. But it's like, Sutton, are you Kyle's friend? Because you know about what happened between her and Kathy and how they had not mended their relationship at the time of the show taping, but yet you're hanging out tough with Kathy, and every time, something's going on, you're with her. So why would Kyle pick you as a friend to confide in? How are you showing up as a friend to her? So it's like she has this double standard going as well. So, I'm not loving the narrative. And so once again, Sutton can't read the room with her issue she was having with her spouse. What I wasn't sure about is I don't think at the moment at Kyle at Sutton's house that was unresolved as far as the London and the trip and the husband and the son. I think she's moving that to say that's what was bothering her and made her so upset in Vegas. But by the time and at the time when they were talking at the house, I don't think that was still the issue. But I could be wrong, but I don't know. I don't know.
Well, she said something to me that was quite telling, and I'm not sure if you picked up on it. And she admitted that she's still in love with her husband.
Yes, I did hear that. And about, not seeing him again if he moved and all that stuff. And so, yeah, so I totally get that. But so let me get your take on how they were, her and Garcelle were trying to be these fact finders and what was going on with Kyle's marriage.
Well, I now that's a scene too where
You
I,
checked out.
I did check out on it. However, I could discern that they were kind of like sharing information, trying to piece something together. When I'm quite sure before they sat down at that table, they each had already drawn conclusions. And for production, they were just speaking out loud about what they believed was going on.
Well, we the pre-conversation that Garcelle and Sutton had. That's where the whole ring issue came up, and
Right,
where after which Garcelle gave her shady comment about Dorit and her ring.
right.
So yes, we know what they were thinking about the ring, and I'm like the other, Anna Marie at the table. Just say it. Are you saying, and when Kyle said, so what you're saying is my husband had an affair on me and he bought me this ring to make up for it or whatever. And they're like, no, that's not what we're saying. When she came out and said, so he cheated on me. And it's like, y'all need to own that and say that's what you believe happened. because, as she said, she let you know they were having a rough time in their marriage. So that's not enough. I don't see why that's not enough.
I, with these women, and what I'm quite sure they do know, but they have not said aloud on the show.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not even sure if it's them giving her grace to allow her to be the one to talk about it in her own way. Because if you can remember, I can't remember if it was the first or second episode when she and Dorit were in the car together, how
Right.
Dorit was trying to frame the conversation to allow her the opportunity
That
to say,
second time,
yeah.
Dorit at her house the first time, then she did it again in the car.
So I
Yeah.
think that they all very much are aware of things and they're tiptoeing around Kyle. And I think the fact that they are, and she's not ready to verbalize it, and
Right.
realizing in this season at some point it is going to come out. I think she's agonizing over how to let it come out, how to say it, when should we say it. And I think that that's what is fueling her emotions, because there's this pushback, like, maybe, I'm not ready.
But
Because
let's be honest to say that they could still be trying to figure it out themselves and how they're going to handle it with their children. Most of them are adults, except for Portia, but that's still a difficult thing to navigate. So I can understand why she's probably like, this TV show is not when and where I'm ready for that to come out. That could be the truth, that they're still trying to figure out how they want to tell it to the people that matter before it becomes fodder for reality TV.
and we've had this conversation before also. Sometimes we agree on this point, sometimes we don't. But when you make the decision to do a reality show, this is a part of it. And when Kyle, she herself said after they taped the reunion that something shifted in her relationship with her husband. She had
Mm-hmm.
the opportunity then to decide, maybe I should not go back on this show. So when you return and you're saying that you want to be an active participant, then that means everything that is a part of your life, whether you want it to come out, whether you want to control the timing of when it comes out, that's all off the table, because you took the paycheck. You said, I'll
But
show up.
notice, she gave them the opportunity to be able to put her. They are the ones that came half cocked,
But
because
that's
they could have came back with more ammunition. They could have came back with what it is. So they had an opportunity to hold her feet to the fire, but she stood her ground in what she was ready to share, and they backed off.
I don't necessarily see it as them backing off. I do see it as being a very difficult topic, a subject that they're trying to navigate it. And I'll say they're navigating it poorly. I,
Early to pick that dinner party, the time to navigate it would have been at their women's retreat, when she mentioned having, if that's really your friend,
well, we
that
clearly know that they're not friends. They are
right,
employees.
exactly. I'm just saying, they're so shocked that she won't open up to them. Well, you had an opportunity at your retreat where she did share some things, where if you wanted to go there, that instead of at her dinner party with some people who she's not as close to as, you know what I'm saying? If that was if you really cared about her and wanted to be there for her and to support her, you had that opportunity.
So, but
You know,
now let's be clear though. The person that pulled it out at that table, it wasn't them. It was Kyle. It was Kyle goading them. Say it. Say it. What is it that you had?
no,
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 had she just let Sutton sit down and Sutton said her little snarky remark, they could have went on,
Now
ate their.
it wasn't Kyle. It was what's the other the one who came in there with them? Oh gosh, that's a shame. I'm not remembering her name. The one that's married to the movie producer.
The movie producer?
Yeah,
Oh, you mean oh.
isn't that terrible? She's gonna have to up her game because we can't.
Crystal, Crystal.
Crystal is the one that made them start talking about it. It was not Kyle.
Chris,
It was
you're right.
Crystal.
You're right. You're right.
It was
Crystal,
Crystal,
she did say,
and Marie took it even further. So Kyle was not trying to make it. She, when it was just her and Sutton by themselves, yeah, she was. But once they got to the table, she was not trying to. She was trying to be a hostess, and they weren't, and it didn't happen.
so it was not Sutton and it was not Garcelle.
Well, Sutton started it by saying she's in denial.
Well, that's
So
why I said, she came and she sat down at the table. She said her little snarky remark. I think had everybody left it alone, they could
who's
have.
going that on with that? Come
Well,
on.
so then what we saw, they had to make that paycheck. And Crystal knew she hasn't been in very many scenes. She hasn't really shown up to bring anything or be the bone keeper. So that was her moment. And one
Yes,
thing she did, she got the fire started.
she took it. She took it.
But the
So
reality in all of this is, for me, I feel you can't get angry when there is truly something that's going on. And the way she went at Sutton,
I
that
wish
did not, for me watching
I,
her, what I saw was a woman who had been hurt, who had experienced something. I'm not going to say what it was, but something devastating happened and she is broken in that moment. That's what I saw.
who's broken?
Kyle.
Oh, okay.
Her reaction to all of it, it was on 10 when it didn't have to be. I believe I think thou dost protest too much. If there was really,
Disagree.
I'm just saying that's how I feel. I feel in
Yeah,
that moment
I'm
that
just saying I co-sign that. I'm just saying I disagree. I think that her response, yes, well, she said, because when she said, I can't afford to be depressed, we know that she's broken. We know that she's had some tough things going on. Those parts are valid. So to say that her response to them was over the top, what do you expect a broken person to do that's struggling and trying to,
and that's
her whole life
but that's
has been.
that's the point that I'm making. That's the very point that I'm making, is that her behavior and the way she responded, all it did was emphasize the fact of everything that they believed could potentially be going wrong, that something was wrong.
Yeah, but I think the part that everybody's missing with this is that I believe her marriage falling apart is not the it was not the catalyst for her. I believe it just is part of the fallout from everything she's been dealing with. That the marriage is one of the casualties of all the stuff and her coming into a place of saying, no more. So I don't think that everybody wants to rest everything on her being the way she is because her marriage has not been great. But I believe the marriage is a casualty of her just reshuffling everything because there were so many areas of her life that she wasn't happy with.
On that point, I can't agree because literally it was into season two where I just wasn't buying what I was seeing. And you're right. I think it was just this slow build of things, of wanting to be the perfect person, wanting to be the perfect sister, wanting to be the perfect mom, all of this perfect, 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 and the pressure that she put on herself, trying to not only externally make things look right and perfect, but internally to feel that everything was right and perfect. When in reality, we know that life is it's a balancing act. Sometimes the scale tips one way and sometimes it tips another way. And when you constantly have cameras in your face and they're following you and you're still trying to make everything look perfect and balance everything, that can weigh on a person. And
Yeah.
especially if you feel that it's you. You know, I remember when her husband opened up his business and they had that party, and something, I think it was Brandy, something popped off with Brandy, and I can't think of the other lady that used to be on the show. uh
Maloof.
yeah, the Aloofs.
Yeah.
You know, and I remember Mauricio always kind of had this even mild mannered tone. You know, you could tell he was annoyed by it, but you know, Kyle, she went to 10 because she felt like if anything didn't go right, it was going to
Right.
be her and her problem, and this is my husband's business, and she was always like that. So,
Yeah.
you know, you can only take on that kind of weight and that pressure for so long until it burns you out.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, she has lived her life being a people pleaser. And I think it has finally caught up to her, and she's realizing that she has to prioritize herself moreover than everybody else. And it's a reshuffling of everything that she has known. And so that's tough. That is a very tough situation to be in. But I don't know if you noticed it, but when they were in the kitchen, when she had Dorit and Crystal over at her house, off on the counter, did you see the little ad, their little advertising that for Mauricio's buying Beverly Hills? Did you see that?
No, I didn't. No, I didn't.
His reality show. It was a little thing on the kitchen counter. And gold. And I'm like, did they buy that that placement?
I was surprised they still had the house.
You were surprised they still had the house?
Yeah, I'm wondering why you're holding on to it. That was their original house, the house they moved out of.
Oh, I got you. That's where they met at. I didn't even pay attention to where
Yes,
they
yes.
yeah.
That parquet floor, I don't think I'll ever forget that. And how she had that neon sign put in her foyer. Yeah, she had remodeled that whole house.
'Cause that was the one that Sutton had rented.
Absolutely.
Okay, I didn't pay attention to because I didn't see them come into the house. I did one of your numbers. I was a little distracted, and I when I saw them, they were just all around the kitchen island.
Yeah, cuz and even that kitchen, you know, that's from, I remember her Portia sitting on the counter and her feeding her grapes and eating on the counter. Yeah, that was their old house.
They were in that house. Okay. Well, I think those are, the highlights of, I think, the main thing. We see that Faye and Kyle still don't like each other. Oh, and did Denise pregame
But
before she came to that dinner?
girl, I don't know what to say about Denise
Oh my
Richardson.
God! And she talking. She don't want no cannabis. Well, you done had something. So
she
now you don't get no cannabis.
she probably fueled up more than 5 milligrams before she got there.
Oh my God, when she came in, I'm like, you can barely get out the vehicle. Oh my Lord. I was just like, okay.
I'm just
So,
wondering, when when did she and Camille become such best buds?
Exactly. You wonder when that happened. Camille is a chameleon because she buddies up and becomes friends for her convenience.
She is not to be trusted.
She is not to be trusted.
But one thing I can say about her is she knows where the bones are buried.
Probably so, because hers are right next to them. Hers are right next to theirs. So yeah, she knows. She definitely.
My goodness.
So, but like I said, a little bit of a letdown for the episode, but it will be interesting to see how they, navigate to the next part. And as we know, more is going to come out about Kyle and Maurizio and Morgan and all that. So
let me ask you this. Okay, so if the reunion were tomorrow, who would be on the right and left? We know Kyle is, because she got her a dope deal. Yep, that's what I thought too. Kyle and Sutton.
Kyle and Sutton, yeah, and that's probably how it's going to end, being Kyle and Sutton. I really think so. Yeah. And you'll have on Sutton's side will be Garcelle and Crystal, and let's see, Dorit and I guess Erika be over there, and maybe we'll see where Anna Marie ends up falling. Probably on Kyle's side. Mm-hmm. That's everybody, right?
That's everybody.
That's everybody. So that's how I would say the reunion setup will look. I don't think it's going to change much. I think it's just going to intensify as the season moves on.
I mean, quite frankly, the way I feel is they could just go on and fast forward to it, because we already know, not much is going to happen with Erika. Because I mean, last week those scenes with her mother, they were cringeworthy.
They were. Oh my gosh, they were quite cringeworthy.
PK is missing in action and probably will be.
Yeah, probably so. It was interesting about Crystal's brother, though.
That is a whole that's a whole maybe like a 10-minute. Let's talk about Crystal and her brother controlling Crystal.
Gosh, now that was an interesting piece of information, and her brother is paying the price for mama and sister making him come home during COVID.
Devastated. You can tell he's
he is devastated. But I understand the girl calling it quits. You done picked your mama and your sister over me.
Yeah, and
your sister wife.
She's standing her ground.
I understand it was COVID and it was China, but hey, that's what family, he showed he could not leave his parents and cleave to his wife. Failed that test. He failed the test. Sorry.
He did. He need to just move on.
He does. He needs to let it go. Poor guy. But I think that's all that we have to say about the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills at this time. If you have comments, if you agree, if you disagree, go ahead and let us know. But we are always glad to share with you what we are thinking.
The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely ours and should be taken as such. Our thoughts are intended purely for entertainment purposes. Please do not take anything we say as fact or advice. Thank you for listening.